Private Lender Podcast, Episode 23.
The Private Lender Podcast quote of the day comes to us from Henry David Thoreau, who said, "It is difficult to begin without borrowing, but perhaps it is the most generous course thus to permit your fellow men to have an interest in your enterprise."
This is the Private Lender Podcast, the show that shares practical advice and know-how for new and seasoned lenders, from private mortgages on single-family houses to joint ventures on commercial projects and beyond. Discover details about investment vehicles that you won't find at your local bank or online broker. Listen and learn from private lenders and real estate investors, as well as from professionals and entrepreneurs, as they share the details, strategies, and the insight that allows for successful and prosperous lending. Now, get ready to increase your ROI. Here's your host, Keith Baker.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Private Lender Podcast. I'm your host, Keith Baker, and I'd like to thank you for sharing your time and your ear with me today. This is episode 23, and it's going to be a little bit of a departure. I like to do this from time to time, bring somebody in that doesn't talk about private lending, but more about real estate investing. Then the background behind, try to fill in the gaps behind the private lending part of it. But today, my guest is Joy Gendusa from Postcard Mania, and Joy has been helping real estate investors, but also small businesses from, as you'll hear, dentists, flower shops, automotive mechanics, you name it. She helps small businesses with their marketing, and she's got some really cool stuff to where she incorporates aspects of the digital world into direct mail with postcards. So it's really, I had a lot of fun interviewing Joy. My partner and I, Landon, we use her in our real estate business to generate leads. And she's got a really, really great deal for listeners of the Private Lender Podcast. So listen to that towards the end, but it's a great deal, but she has a ton of good information to provide you during the interview. But before we get too far along, I'd like to go ahead and thank our sponsors. The Private Lender Podcast is proudly sponsored by the following. The Realty Investment Community of Houston, or Rich Club, is the premier real estate association in Southeast Texas. The Rich Club provides its members with the education, resources, leads, and networking they need to earn more wealth with their real estate investments. The Rich Club has helped thousands of real estate investors realize their full potential, and they are ready to help you. Visit their website at richclub.org for more details. That's richclub.org. 713 Houston Area Real Estate Networking with Landon Rothstein and Ray Sasser. Come out and experience one of the fastest growing meetups of real estate investors. Visit privatelenderpodcast.com/sponsors for more information regarding 713 Houston Area Real Estate Networking Meetup. And now, back to the show. All right, and we're back. Before we get to the interview with Joy, I'd like to ask a simple favor from everyone. If you can hear my voice, and this is not the first time you've heard this show, but the second, third, fourth, fifth, so on and so forth, would you please go to iTunes? Even if you have an Android, please go to iTunes and leave a rating and review. I would love a 5-star review, but only give me that if you think I deserve it. The reason I'm asking this of you is the more ratings and reviews that go onto iTunes means the more people that this podcast gets in front of, or the more people that get exposed to it. Just the way my understanding of the way the iTunes algorithm works. And I say, even if you have an Android, please go to iTunes, because iTunes is still the 400-pound gorilla in the room. It's still the IBM of podcasts. More podcasts listened to and downloaded from iTunes than anywhere else. But that's quickly changing. But for the time being, I'd like to get the numbers up on iTunes. If you have an Android, if you're on Stitcher, SoundCloud, please also rate and review there as well. It helps. Every little bit helps. But I want to get in front of as many people as possible to build as large a tribe of lenders as possible. And this will help to create a tribe of lenders that helps one another and helps other investors and other people, common everyday people, prosper outside of banks and Wall Street. So please leave a rating and review. I would greatly appreciate it. So let's go ahead and listen to the interview with Joy Gendusa. Lender Nation, today we're honored to have Joy Gendusa of Postcard Mania with us. Joy is an entrepreneur, a business owner, author, keynote speaker, and philanthropist. Joy's marketing strategies and accomplishments can be seen in today's top business publications such as Entrepreneur, Business Insider, Inc. magazine, and more. Her company, Postcard Mania, has been featured on the Inc. 500 and the Inc. 5000 lists and has helped in excess of 78,000 small businesses, including thousands of real estate investors, with their marketing. Joy, thank you so much, and welcome to the Private Lender Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm super happy to help anyone.
This is great. I'm very stoked. I'm going to go ahead and get some disclosures out of the way. My partner and I use Postcard Mania in our marketing to find distressed houses and distressed sellers. I guess I would be the distressed buyer, but distressed sellers. We use the direct mail marketing, but Joy's company is so much more than just postcards, and I'll let her get into it. But before we do, tell us how. It says your bio says it started with a phone, a computer, and some postcard marketing, and now you're the CEO of a multi-million-dollar marketing company. So, walk us through your origin story. Walk us through that path, please.
Let's see. Okay. First of all, I didn't have a lot of expenses. I had 2 little kids, and I was married to a guitar teacher at the time. Not married to him anymore. And guitar player. I should say he's really a guitar player that the only way he wanted to make a living was teach so he could play guitar more. But anyway, I digress. So we didn't have a lot of money, and so we didn't have a lot of bills. We didn't have any golden handcuffs. So we just lived on the cheap. So I started my own business doing graphic design freelance from my house, and then basically that evolved into brokering printing, because a lot of people, when they would get their graphic design and they would go to a printer, they wouldn't know if they were getting a good price. So I started doing that, and I did it totally transparent. I would just tell them, I'm going to mark it up 20%. I'll show you all the pricing I get. You go out and get your own quotes, and you'll see that even with my 20%, I'll save you money. So that's kind of how I got into my own business and started to need to hire people. What happened was I needed a postcard to promote my own business. I had one of these really big customers that was 80% of my business. And I could tell they were going south, that they were going to not be around much longer for us. And I needed to promote my own business. So that's really how it started. And I was marketed to by a company that does postcards just for the trade, since I was considered the trade. And they were going to sell me 5,000 postcards for $425. This was back in 1998. So I bought the postcards. I mean, I designed my own card, and I put it on a CD, or maybe it was a CD, and I overnighted it with FedEx to them, and then they overnighted me back a proof. This was like pre-email. I mean, it was email, but you could only type. And they sent me back my proof, and they had added a little tiny 5.800 number, their 800 number, onto my card. And I called them up and asked them to remove it, because I sell printing, and I'm not really interested in spend all this postage and have them call you guys. And they told me it was going to be $50 for me to remove the 800 number. So I asked to speak to a manager, and they put a manager on the phone, and he also informed me that it was going to be $50, but because he was a manager, he could waive it this time. And then next time it would be $50. And I said, thank you very much. I hung up the phone, and I told my 3-man operation, we're going to start a postcard company. We're going to call it Postcard Mania. We're not going to put our 800 number on our clients' cards, and let's do it. So it was a pilot project started in June of 1998. I still had my little Joy Rockwell, that was my old last name, Joy Rockwell Enterprises, that did pretty much anything and everything, did graphic design and printing mainly, but whatever anybody wanted. So I said, I think we should really see what we can do with this postcard thing. And there was nothing like it for the small business owner. And honestly, I didn't know anything about business. I mean, I had my own little company, but I wasn't like I don't have any business background or anything like that. Thank God. Because I feel like if you know too much about something, you know all the bad things about it. You know all the problems you're going to run into, and you can get scared. If I knew everything I knew now, then I'd probably be too scared to go ahead and do it. Yeah, I mean, it was...
Well, I'm glad you weren't too scared, so...
Yeah, me too. So now it's like almost 20 years later. I mean, in June, it'll be 20 years since the idea happened. And we have 223 staff and about 50 million in revenue. And how I got from there to here is probably too long of a story for this podcast.
Well, fair enough.
But it has a lot to do with, I'll give it to you in a couple sentences. Hiring amazing people who believe in your vision and just really good people that work hard and young. I had all youngins that weren't expensive at the time that are still with me and now are extremely costly.
Right. Yeah, I bet.
I mean, the president of my company now was 19 years old when she came to work for me. Now it's 20 years later and
Wow.
she's the president of the company, and she literally drove my kids to school and answered the phones, so really great people that care, and also marketing way more than you would ever think is necessary. All these gigantic brands that everybody hears about, it's because of marketing that they hear about them. So we always out promote any of our clients. We just are marketing crazy people, thus maniacs, postcard mania.
I can attest to two things. One, I just got an email from you not too long ago, actually, from Postcard Mania, but the other is the people I'd like to quick shout out and to give Zach Rockwell and Sarah McGill some kind words and a shout out and a big thank you. They are the two that handle all of my postcards, and the thing that I love most about them is I have this really annoyingly bad habit of sending an email and just expecting someone to read between the lines, figure out what it is I'm actually saying, and get it done. And on several occasions, they've done that. And when they couldn't, they're like, all right, Keith, you got to give me a little bit more here. What do we need to do? So Zach and Sarah, I want to say thanks. And
that's great. They'll love that.
That's really, I think, people, it makes a huge difference in a company for sure. So that's interesting. I didn't realize you were like a graphic designer background, and now you're into this great marketing machine. Like I said, my partner and I use direct mail, and I know that that is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to what you offer your clients. So, and this is something my partner and I were just talking about dipping into. There's the direct mail 2.0, and then there's something that's even better than that. So I'd like to turn it back over to you at this point and just tell us about all these wonderful services that people can get through Postcard Mania.
Okay, cool. Well, first of all, what we are into is making leads happen for small businesses. So obviously, there's a million different marketing channels that people can choose from. And what we found, and what I found, is that it's very complicated and very confusing for small business owners to figure out where to put their marketing dollars. And they do need to be exposed in a number of different places in order to get the biggest bang for their marketing dollar. And if you have a small business and you go to one agency to do Google ads, and you go to someplace else for Facebook ads, and someplace else for whatever else, you're getting very discombobulated, not very coordinated marketing that doesn't work in sync with each other. So it starts really with an amazing card that has all the right ingredients in it to get a response, and also the list, like who you're mailing to. So once we get that down to the exact science, which it's not ever an exact science, but once we get it down to the best possible scenario, what we have something that we call, you mentioned direct mail 2.0. We sort of took that to the next level. We call it Everywhere Small Business, and I'll tell you what that is. You're taking a traditional direct mail piece, whether it's a postcard or whatever, and you're adding a number of additional components to it. So you're adding first a mail tracking code, and that just tells the marketer when the piece is going to be delivered, when it's going to hit the household, so that you have some understanding of when that happens. In the old days, if you send out mail, you're like, I wonder if it hit. I don't know. Did the phone start ringing? I don't know. Then it became, let's check our Google Analytics and see if we have more hits to our website. Then we know the mail hit. Well, now you can actually see the predicted delivery date and the actual delivery date just by logging into a dashboard. You can see that. The next thing we add to the piece is a call tracking phone number. That phone number is still going to ring wherever your normal phone rings. It's just going to be picked up in the cloud first, recorded, like a little record button will get hit, and then it'll ring by you. And then that way the call is being recorded, and you can go into that same dashboard and you can see exactly how many people dialed that number, how many people called from that specific direct mail piece. And you can listen to those calls so that you can quality control your own spiel, or if you have somebody working for you, you can quality control them as well. Also, if somebody calls you off hours or when you can't answer the phone, then it still records it, so you know that somebody actually dialed the number and you can call them back. The next thing we add is we put a little piece of code on your website. And what that does is every person who gets the postcard and then goes to your website gets a cookie. That's what it's called. And that way, when they leave your website, they're going to start seeing ads all over both the Google network, which is hundreds of thousands of websites. You've seen those ads, like if you buy something and then you don't actually pull the trigger, or even if you do pull the trigger and then you start seeing the item everywhere you go.
I looked up hairspray for my wife, and now that's all I see.
That's all you see. Like you need it.
Yeah, exactly.
And the same thing on Facebook. Well, on the Facebook side of it, not only is it going to be the people who go to your website, but we take your mailing list and we do a match we find those people that are on the mailing list on Facebook. And when you're mailing to consumers rather than businesses, we can get like a 60 to 90% match on Facebook. So they're going to start seeing ads before they get your card. Then they're going to see the ads after they get the card. And then if they go to your website, they're going to see ads too. So it's a wham. It's like a several hitting them from all ends.
Absolutely. I didn't realize it was that in depth. I mean, I've like I said, we just primarily use the postcards and then the tracking so that we can see when we can expect the phone to ring. And we've let's up the game, because I my personal belief, but I think we are living in the most exciting time in human history. I know this country's divided and there's all this other stuff, but I think we are on this amazing wave. And, when I got into real estate investing, it was, there was postcards and yellow letters, and I'm too lazy to sit there and write and stuff envelopes and, postcards. I love postcards. Quick. You don't have to open them, but adding this social media element to it and this digital element is the response to this has just got to be mind blowing for your customers and your clients. What type of rates? Let's compare just postcards and this Cadillac option that you have.
I don't know the prices. I wish I had the prices. Honestly,
no, effectively, not the prices, but just how much the response rates. Yeah, the response rates.
It's really incredible. I just, it's funny because I have so many staff. I'm not on the front lines as much as I used to be, but at staff meeting, we'll read some results. And we just read from a company called Real Joy Vacations. They are property management, more like a sort of like Airbnb, but like they have their properties that they own. Mm-hmm. And they switched from Direct Mail 2.0 to Everywhere Small Business. So all we did was add the Facebook component to it. And they have almost hit their 2018. They wanted to acquire 150 properties in 2018. So they're using it, or not acquire. Is it that they're buying properties, or are they just getting people to use them? I don't know. But they're like 3/4 of a way to their target by March.
And the first quarter's not even over yet.
Exactly. So,
okay.
And that's what they did, is they switched from just the Google to adding the Facebook. So we just launched the Facebook aspect of Direct Mail 2.0 in end of September in 2017 as a pilot. Let's see if we can deliver it. Let's see how it goes at one of my events. And we thought, we'll sign up 5 people and it'll be fine. And literally we're selling between 50 and 60 of these campaigns. We sell about 200 campaigns a week. So about 50 or 60 of them include the whole Everywhere Small Business.
Wow. Okay. I can only assume.
Have amazing case studies for the whole thing, but
I imagine those numbers are going to steadily increase.
Yeah.
This sounds, I guess I can't wait to get into it and see what happens. Cause like I said, we log in and say, okay, when do they expected to hit the,
that was your main interest.
Yeah. And
sexy part about it.
And like you said, okay, well, this guy over here, he'll do Facebook for us. And this kid over here, or I say kid, my nephew, on the Google site. Yeah. And so it's all in one house. And that's, like I said, that it's these exciting times. And I think it's a great product that you've put together there. The one thing, do you guys provide lists for people, or do you do?
Yeah, we have lists, and this is what's really exciting for real estate investors. You basically want to get a list, and you want to know about life events that are occurring for people because of who defaults on a mortgage, like who's going to need to sell quick. Obviously, if somebody is going to sell quick, they are going to get a lower price for their property. Mm-hmm. And so who sells quick? It's people having life events. And, we can find, if they're defaulting on their mortgage, if they're going through a divorce, if they're in probate, that kind of thing. So we can find that, whether there was a death, a bankruptcy, evictions, notice of default, notice of sale, notice of lease pendants. I mean, we can get all that data in a list so that you're only mailing to people that possibly are in a situation where they need to sell. So that's really super important to the campaign.
And it's great. It's all in-house there too. It's a one-stop shop. And that's because we, another conversation my partner and I are having, we're pulling a list from one place, sending it over here. I'm like, let's just try it. Let's just do all in one and save us some time. So that's,
did you do that yet with us?
No, not yet. We have, we just sent, actually Sarah just emailed me yesterday, our last, I want to say, conventional mailing is going out right now on an old list that we want to hit it one more time.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll take that data and we're going to do the new Small Business Everywhere and try.
Oh, cool. Should I tell Zach to call you?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. We're gonna try some of that and see how it goes. We just have to decide what life event do we want to target? Is it probate? Is it divorce? Or the lis pendant's been filed? Or so we don't want to overlap, but we want to test it and see how it works. And I am geeking out on this whole Facebook Google thing. So
awesome.
And not to make this a commercial for Postcard Mania, but
seriously, this is like the best podcast I've ever been on.
I'm a fan. So well, thank you for that. So anyway,
don't tell Mitch.
Yeah, right. No, exactly.
Just kidding, Mitch.
Sorry, Mitch. Yeah, actually, I was interviewed on his podcast yesterday.
Oh, so, cool.
Yeah, it's a small world. It's how it works out. So, and let's get back to the list real quick, and maybe you can agree or disagree. Maybe have a debate here. But when it comes to a list, I think I prefer, rather than a shotgun approach, I like to take a list very niche and very deep rather than wide to try to get the sellers, so to speak, or the people that have the distressed homes or the distressed situation. Mm-hmm. Obviously, I think that's goes across the board for real estate. What in other businesses do you find that? Like print shops or flower shops?
Many businesses can really just, like, if you're doing to consumers, you don't go that deep like you do in your industry. It's not as important. I mean, like, everybody has teeth, so dentists don't need to go that deep. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
And I wish we don't have access to data. I mean, look, if you could get a list where people are having a toothache, that would be amazing. It just doesn't, the data doesn't exist.
Not yet.
Or like for hair salons, whose hair is outgrown? The data doesn't exist. But for your industry, we can get this data. So we do so fantastic for real estate investors because of the data. The cards they totally invalidate what normally works in a postcard design. It's a completely different thing. Like, I have my 10 elements of the perfect design for every industry but real estate investors. It's like totally different.
So we're that big of an oddball bunch.
It is. It totally is. But we do really fantastic. Like, I have some crazy results here. Like, somebody who mailed one time, you guys can mail one time sometimes and get amazing results, which we never recommend that you only mail one time to the same person. But here's a guy who mailed 7,200 pieces one time, and he's made $96,900. And Yeah. So what did he spend? He spent $2,000 on postage and $710 on the postcards, and he's made $96,900. And it's one of these third notice, attention, I've been trying to reach you regarding, and then the property name is variable data. Customized. Each card has the property, and it's just one of those yellow cards.
Just an ugly yellow card.
Ugly yellow card. And it just is great. It says, like, I've done all I can to get hold of you, and this is my last resort. Please turn the card over. It's important that I hear from you ASAP. I mean, it looks pretty official, and it has the number on it, and you just made buco money on that one. And then here's one, mailed once to 1,065 pieces, to people, 1,065. They provided the list. It was an absentee owner list. They spent $1,478. And, I only have the percent. Do I only have the percent? It says the ROI was 50,000%. But he got so overwhelmed with the number of responses after his first mailer, he asked us to pause the campaign. This was back in August 2016. Now in July 2017, the numbers almost doubled from 120 responses in 2016. The responses now are 320. And he closed 11%, which means he bought 35 houses for a revenue averaging $750,000, all after just one mailer of 1,065 cards. I mean, I have like a stack of these.
Wow,
it's crazy.
I wish I had numbers like that.
Look, I'll send you every one of these, and you can just copy them.
Maybe we put some of the examples on the show notes so people can see.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. These, if I have these in my hand, it means that these guys are totally fine on sharing.
Excellent. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I literally have a stack, and some of them are normal designs, like picture color on the front, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And some of them, a lot of them are just these ugly yellow cards, but we'll definitely put them up on the show notes and people can copy. I don't care if they do them with me or with somebody else. I'm just happy to help people get more prosperous.
I think that would be great for the listeners. Now, there is a certain group of real estate investors that say direct mail is dead. I'm not one of them.
Seriously? How can you even say? Really?
Yes, and they're on podcasts too. Yes, and I'm not. Yeah. Even we get the phone to ring even when we've had bad lists. I don't go through Postcard Mania to get the list, or we haven't yet, but we have gotten some bad lists. And I emailed Sarah and I was like, "Could you check on this for me?" Because it's radio silence. But even with bad lists, we still get response. Now, sometimes they're just tire kickers, and and sometimes it's, "Hey, will you take me off your list?" I love those calls because I know it's working. That's a proof of concept. But I've already geeked out about your whole small business.
Everywhere small business.
Everywhere small business. But what are you seeing in the industry like with the cards? You're still getting the cards and the everywhere small business, the Google, the Facebook, but are you still seeing a good core of just the postcards?
Most of our business is just the postcards. I wish everybody would do everywhere small business because it's so much more effective. You're getting a lot more bang for your buck, doing it that way. So I wish more people would do it. We just, we even have a verification script. I'm sure Zachary had to read it to you after you purchase. And it says you're declining direct mail 2.0.
It does.
Yeah, remember? Yeah. So now that says I just want to make sure you're declining we're recording this, you're declining everywhere small business because, sometimes people call up and their budget is so tiny that they're afraid to even do postcards and then tell them they have to spend more money to get this other aspect of it. But they really are going to, it's all about what you get back, not what you spend in the beginning. So I don't know how anybody buys. If I was a salesperson at my company, nobody would buy without everywhere small business.
I have a feeling you would close 98% of the people on that sell.
Yeah.
But
I do have some things for your listeners if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do we get in touch with you? And what I understand you have an offer for the listeners, so please.
Yeah, I have a book I wrote. It's called Postcard Marketing in an Online World. And you can get that at postcardmania.com/podcast. And then we have a specific one for this podcast. If you want to try Everywhere Small Business, we'll give you 1,000 free postcards added to your order. and you would go to postcardmania.com/private lender podcast. And so those are the two things if anybody wants to try it out. And also, I always like to give out my email address to anyone who wants to ask me a question if you're not ready to pull the trigger or talk to one of my – I have a special call tracking phone number too. Oh, I forgot to say that. They get – oh, no, I did say that they get a special call tracking number. So I'm going to use that on this podcast so that anybody who calls up, we know it came from this podcast so that we can give credit where credit is due to you. So that phone number, maybe we can have that on the page too, is 844-573-8085.
Yeah, I'll put that on the show notes.
Yeah, because
Definitely.
that way you'll get credit for that.
And before, what was your email address?
Oh, yeah. My email address is easy, joy.gendusa@postcardmania.com. That's GENDUSA. Joy.gendusa@postcardmania.com. Anybody can email me and ask me anything they like, and I'll answer the best that I can.
Great. That's great. Thanks for that offer. 1,000 free postcards. That's not small. That's great. And I can't thank you enough for coming on today and talking about this wonderful company you built. And I can't wait to get into the Facebook, the Google. I'm
good. And that's your next campaign. I'm excited for you.
It. Yeah,
love it.
This is going to be great. And hopefully in a few months or so, we can catch back up and have you back on.
Okay, great. I'd love it.
All right.
Thank you. This was the best commercial. This was like the longest commercial. I really appreciate you.
The pleasure's mine. I've really enjoyed it. And I wish you all the success in postcard and Facebook and Google marketing.
Okay. Thanks, Keith.
All right. Take care. Well, I hope you enjoyed the interview with Joy Gendusa. I know I had fun interviewing her, and I also really do like her company and the people that work for her. I can't stress that enough. They've been really good for Landon and I as we've used them for direct mail marketing. And as you hear, we're going to start with the Everywhere Small Business. So, and I'm looking forward to see the results that come from that. In the meantime, don't forget the special offer that Joy has given to Private Podcast. I don't even know the name of my own podcast. Private Lender Podcast listeners. If you go to postcardmania.com/Private Lender Podcast, you can get a special offer of 1,000 free postcards with your first order of Everywhere Small Business. You can also call her at 844-573-8085 with any questions you have, or you can directly email Joy at joy.gendusa@postcardmania.com. Now, you can also go to the show notes at privatelenderpodcast.com, episode 23, and there will be links for you to click on and make it a little bit easier, especially if you're driving. And you can get examples of the postcards in the show notes as well. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. I know I had a lot of fun putting it together, and I hope everyone's summer is kicking off to a happy and safe start. And I want to wish you everyone? How does that work? I'd like to wish everyone happy, prosperous lending and investing. And I'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Private Lender Podcast with your host, Keith Baker. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit privatelenderpodcast.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review, and we'll catch you next time.